Grape juice turns into alcohol. That's alcoholic fermentation. There's a secondary fermentation that creates the bubbles from the CO2 that is from the first alcoholic fermentation. Now in Champagne is a region about an hour east of Paris if you take the fast train there. Champagne, they take the wine and I'm going like super high level. It's too hot to get like super geeky about this, for you to listen to me get geeky about this. And so after the grape juice turns into wine, they start that process over again, but they do it in a bottle. And you can see how bottles like this have such a different top than say a still wine. Now what this is, has anyone ever been to a winery where they make sparkling wine or been to Champagne? Cool, you've seen that they've had like or if you've ever drank like Pet Nats or Method Ancestral wines, they'll have like a beer cap on top of it. That's why this bottle is shaped like that beer cap. So what they do, they add more sugar, they add more yeast, then they beer cap it, and that process starts over again of creating CO2, sulfites, and ethyl alcohol. Except because of this beer cap, the CO2 can't escape. And so eventually, over a lot of time in Champagne, it could be 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years or plus, that CO2 becomes suspended in the liquid. Okay, and then I'm gonna skip over a couple parts there, but when they take that beer cap off, they fill the top of it with something called a dosage, which is how they can determine like what sweetness level the wine is gonna be, whether it's a brut or an extra brut or a demi-sec, and then they put the cork on it, the cage, and then the foil. That process is called the Champagne method or method champenois. Anyone ever been to South Africa? Favorite place on this planet, South Africa besides Boston. South Africa, there they call it the classic method or the cap classique. Beer cap classic method, right? So basically, Champagne method, all that stuff happens in the bottle. Now prosecco, that secondary fermentation, happens in a really large keg, a stainless steel tank, and then they transfer it to a bottle. It's literally called the transfer method, and then they put the cork on it, and they sell it out. And that's why prosecco and prosecco style wines are much more affordable, cheaper, right, than Champagne method style wines, because it literally comes down to labor and time. And you take a sip, you're gonna feel the bubbles. When you make method champenois or the Champagne method style of wine, the bubbles are called the mousse, M-O-U-S-S-E. And those are a little bit finer bubbles, and you feel them like in the front. So your mouth is just your palate. You have literally have the front, the mid, and the back palate, okay? And we all feel the same, which is the coolest thing. So you'll feel the bubbles or the mousse in the front and the mid palate. Now, when we have Prosecco, made totally different, the bubbles aren't as fine because it takes, I'm throwing this out, so don't put me on Instagram being like, TJ says it only takes 2 days, he doesn't know anything, right? I'm gonna say it takes 2 days, but it doesn't. It takes 2 days to make Prosecco, right? And so when you do that, all the bubbles are more explosive and they're very short and the finish is really short and it's all in the front of your palate. So that's kind of like the difference, like on a tactile sensation level.